Samsy. Story time with Ronnie. Okay, guys, what do we got going on? Oh, Journey to the Center of the Earth, Part 28. We're at the Winn campground in the Apache-Sitgreaves National Forest, and we're going to be here for the entire show today. And the entire show is the snow show. And we just going to sit here and let Duchess, we're going to make us internet famous, Duchess. We're just going to sit here and watch the snow, and then eventually we're going to go walk around in the snow. So it's kind of the snow show. So with that snow show, let's go. When we left this thing off, oh boy, Harry had finally, he was finally coming around because he had, he was lost and banged his head and poulticed and wrapped, the whole bit. So he was outside. He was out in the open air in this inland sea thing. And they were getting ready to go on their sea voyage, and he was just taking in the immensity of the whole thing, and he had no idea what was going on. So here we go. We'll pick it up there while the two stars, Pluto and Proserpine, circle there in their mysterious orbits. After all, suppose the old fellow was right. In truth, we were imprisoned, bound, as it were, in a vast excavation. Its width was impossible to make out. The shore, on either hand, widening rapidly until lost in sight, while its length was equally uncertain. A haze on the distant horizon bounded our view. As to its height, we could see that it must be many miles to the roof. Looking upward, it was impossible to discover where the stupendous roof began. The lowest of the clouds must have been floating at an elevation of 2,000 yards. A height greater than that of terrestrial vapors, which circumstance was doubtless owing to the extreme density of the air. Oh, well, doubtless. Oh yeah, the snow's starting to gather. Eventually here you'll hear the little oasis system kick on. Well, you might not. It's pretty quiet. It doesn't do a whole lot, and that's why it's so nice when we're up here. We don't have any propane, and we got a good lithium system for batteries, so we can just sit here, and that little hydronic system, he'll turn on and off and turn on and off, and it really is not very intrusive. It's a nice deep little purr kind of thing. The fans, you got to keep them things cleaned out and operational. They can get a little vibratey because, as anything in the RV industry, it was installed with the lowest paid employees with the highest speed drill gun. All right, density of the air. I use the word cavern in order to give an idea of the place. I cannot describe its awful grandeur. Human language fails to convey an idea of its savage sublimity. Whether this singular vacuum had or had not been caused by the sudden cooling of the earth when in a state of fusion, I could not say. I had read of most wonderful and gigantic caverns, but none anyway like this. The great grotto of Cuachara in Colombia, visited by the learned Humboldt, the vast and partially explored Mammoth Cave in Kentucky, Oh, here, let me do that one. Kentucky. What were these holes in the earth to that in which I stood in speechless admiration, with its vapory clouds, its electric light, and the mighty ocean slumbering in its bosom? Imagine. No description could alone. Yeah, I'm just making up my own words here. Let me run that back there. I thought I might get away with it, and then I started feeling bad about it. Not description can alone give an idea of the splendor and vastness of the cave. That is, imagination, not description, can alone give an idea of the splendor and vastness of the cave. We'll edit that out, right? Oh, yeah, we'll get that. Okay. I gazed at these marvels in profound silence. Words were utterly wanting to indicate the sensations of wonder I experienced. It seemed, as I stood up that mysterious shore, as if I were some wandering inhabitant of a distant planet, present for the first time at the spectacle of some terrestrial phenomenon belonging to another existence. To give body and existence to such new sensations would have required the coinage of new words, and here my feeble brain found itself wholly at fault. I looked on. I thought. I reflected. I admired, in a state of stupefaction, not altogether unmingled with fear. The expected spectacle restored some color to my pallid cheeks. I seemed to be actually getting better under the influence of this novelty. Moreover, the vivacity of the dense atmosphere reanimated my body by inflating my lungs with unaccustomed oxygen. Whew, let's take a look at this little knot drive here. Dora, she's doing a good job. She's keeping us on the straight path there. Yeah, it gets. She sits here and just watches us walk around. I think we're probably walking around outside right now. Okay, green alligators, 5, 6, 7 green alligators. That's enough green alligators, lungs accustomed to oxygen. Okay, yeah. It will be readily conceived that after an imprisonment of 47 days in a dark and miserable tunnel, it was the infinite delight that I breathed this saline air. It was like the genial, reviving influence of the salt sea waves. My uncle had got over the first surprise. With the Latin poet Horace, his idea was that not to admire is all the art I know, to make man happy and to keep him so. Oh, there you go. All right, let's take a pause and resume. Okay, let's do that poem thing again, because that was pretty cool. Okay, here we go. Now this is the Latin poet Horace. Not to admire is all the art I know, to make man happy and to keep him so. There you go. Well, I'll put that on my bumper sticker. Well, he said, after giving me time thoroughly to appreciate the marvels of this underground sea, do you feel strong enough to walk up and down? Certainly, was my ready answer. Nothing would give me greater pleasure. Well, then, my boy, he said, lean on my arm, and we will stroll along the beach. I accepted the offer eagerly, and we began to walk along the shores of this extraordinary lake. To our left were abrupt rocks, piled upon the other, a stupendous titanic pile. Down their sides leapt innumerable cascades, which at last, becoming limpid and murmuring streams, were lost in the waters of the lake. Light vapors, which rose here and there and floated in fleecy clouds from rock to rock, indicated hot springs, which also poured their superfluidity into the vast reservoir at our feet. Among them, I recognized our old and faithful stream, the Hansbach, which, lost in that wild basin, seemed as if it had been flowing since the creation of the world. "We shall miss our excellent friend," I remarked with a deep sigh. "Bah!" said my uncle testily. "What matters it? That or another, it's all the same." I thought the remark ungrateful, and felt almost inclined to say so. But I forbore. At this moment my attention was attracted by an unexpected spectacle. After we had gone about 500 yards, we suddenly turned a steep promontory and found ourselves close to a lofty forest. It consisted of straight trunks with tufted tops, in shape like parasols. The air seemed to have no effect upon these trees. Oh, okay, yeah, I just saw it there. So we go outside and start kind of looking at stuff, and okay, yeah. And then we get out and do some walking around, get the dogs out, and oh, I wonder. Yeah, okay, well, I'll have to see. I want to talk about that Class A bit with dogs. It's actually surprisingly, I was surprised at how useful that front area is as a porch. I mean, I leave my boots and everything up there. You can, move the chairs back. You got more room. The steering wheel tilts up, and then you got room. It's a full-on porch there. You can kick off. It's all nicely tiled up there. You don't have to worry about getting stuff wet. Oh yeah, it works out real good. I'll have to do a bit. All right, let's continue on with this other bit here, though. The air seemed to have no effect upon these trees, which, in spite of a tolerable breeze, remained as still and motionless as if they had been petrified. I hastened forward. I could find no name for these singular formations. Did they not belong to the 2,000 or more known trees? Or were we to make the discovery of a new growth? By no means. When we at last reached the forest and stood beneath the trees, my surprise gave way to admiration. In truth, I was simply in the presence of a very ordinary product of the earth, of singular and gigantic proportions. My uncle unhesitatingly called them by their real names. "It is only," he said, in his coolest manner, "a forest of mushrooms." On close examination, I found that he was not mistaken. Judge of the development attained by this product of damp, hot soils. I had heard that the, Lycoperdon giganteum reaches 9 feet in circumference. But here were white mushrooms, nearly 40 feet high, and with tops of equal dimensions. They grew in countless thousands. The light could not make its way through their massive substance. and beneath them reigned a gloomy and mystic darkness. All right, I see I'm goofing around with the camera. We're about to get the dogs out and go for a walk. Okay, gloomy and mystic darkness. Oh, here we go with the dogs. Still, I wished to go forward. The cold in the shades of this singular forest was intense. For nearly an hour we wandered about in this darkness visible. At length we left the spot, and once more returned to the shores of the lake, to light and comparative warmth. But the amazing vegetation of subterraneous land was not confined to gigantic mushrooms. New wonders awaited us at every step. We had not gone many 100 yards when we came upon a mighty group of other trees, with discolored leaves, the common, humble trees of Mother Earth, of an exorbitant and phenomenal size. Lysopods 100 feet high, flowering ferns as tall as pines, gigantic grasses. Astonishing! Magnificent! Splendid! Cried my uncle. Here we have before us the whole flora of the second period of the world, that of transition. Behold the humble plants of our gardens, which in the first ages of the world were mighty trees. Look around you, my dear Harry. No botanist ever before gazed on such a sight. My uncle's enthusiasm, always a little more than was required, was now excusable. You are right, uncle, I remarked. Providence appears to have designed the preservation in this vast and mysterious hothouse of antediluvian plants to prove the sagacity of learned men in figuring them so marvelously on paper. Well said, my boy, very well said. It is indeed a mighty hothouse, but you would also be within the bounds of reason and common sense if you also added a vast menagerie. I looked rather anxiously around. If the animals were as exaggerated as the plants, the matter would certainly be serious. A menagerie? Doubtless. Look at the dust we are treading underfoot. Behold the bones with which the whole soil of the seashore is covered. Wait a second. Wait a sec. You walking around on a whole bunch of bones and you never noticed? Harry, let's get it together, buddy. Dial up that, Okay, seashore is covered. Bones, I replied. Yes, certainly, the bones of antediluvian animals. I stooped down as I spoke and picked up one or two singular remains, relics of a bygone age. It was easy to give a name to these gigantic bones, in some instances as big as trunks of trees. Here is clearly the lower jawbone of a mastodon, I cried, almost as warmly and enthusiastically as my uncle. Here are the molars of the Dinotherium. Here is a leg bone which belonged to the Megatherium. You are right, uncle. It is indeed a menagerie. For the mighty animals to which these bones once belonged have lived and died on the shores of this subterranean sea, under the shadow of these plants. Look, yonder are whole skeletons, and yet, nephew, said my uncle, noticing that I had suddenly came to a full stop. I do not understand the presence of such beasts in granite caverns, however vast and prodigious, was my reply. Why not? Said my uncle, with very much of his old professional impatience. Because it is well known that animal life only existed on Earth during the secondary period, when the sedimentary soil was formed by the alluviums. That must be like the Antillians. Antillians. Boy, ooh, look at this guy. Hey, Nanook. What are you doing? Oh, just going RVing, one last trip. It wasn't all that bad, actually. It was, when was that? It was like the third week of September, and kind of a surprise snowstorm. But like I say, we've experienced snow and that kind of thing before, and this Winn campground is just fantastic because it's just all good rock. There's very little chance that you're going to have any kind of a problem. And I know I keep saying how great it is, and I shouldn't be because, the people really want to go there. But, it's not an easy one to get to because of that gravel road that comes in there. And then there's just nothing there. There's no electricity. There's no dump station. And there is water. But those amenities are, the pit toilet kind of thing. So usually people stay a couple of days. Oh, here, let me do this. Hang on a second. Let me mark this in the book here so I can do me a little cassette toilet rant. No, RV guys. Nobody wants that cassette toilet because you can't just go and dump that thing. A chemical toilet with paper and whatever in it. Whatever in it. Anyway, you can't just keep stopping at campgrounds and dumping your suitcase full of dookie in the pit toilets. And for you overlanders, who's digging a hole to drop 5 gallons of dookie every couple of days? Nobody. They're pouring it on the ground. Okay? Yeah, that's not a good thing. Knock it off with that cassette toilet. Boy, you guys are really passing the buck there. All right. Here we go. We're about to get back in this thing. I think we end it right here. Is that right? Hang on a second. Yeah, that's right. Let's just knock it off right here, guys. Sam C. And we'll just give you a little big old Rosie. Thank you so much for coming along. And we'll get further down the road next time. We might even be traveling.